All right, let's get going. Try that again. So Malibu is uniquely situated to be impacted by both local fault systems and long-distance known faults. As you can see in the map on your screen, we have quite a few faults in the Malibu Coast Fault System, which is active and is forecasted as being capable of producing a 6.5 to 7 magnitude earthquake. In event of a local earthquake, the city will probably be the city may be heavily damaged physically, but resources and aid would come quickly due to the lack of competing need. Basic utilities may be restored relatively quickly as well. These are on the known faults. However, I would like to remind everyone that the Northridge earthquake occurred on a previously unknown fault. So the area might be more seismically active than we're aware. In the event of a San Andreas fault rupture, the city may not be as heavily damaged physically, but the city's utilities such as water, electricity, and gas have the potential to be far more impacted. Outside resources and aid was likely to be slow in coming due to the expansive nature of the earthquake damage in Southern California. Water supplies could be damaged, utilities may not be restored for a while, so it's very, very important that residents of Malibu and Southern California in general should be prepared to be self-sufficient for 2 to 3 weeks in the event of the capital T big one occurring on the San Andreas Fault. As seen in the previous slide, we have lots of faults in the area. Malibu is also has a lot of steep terrain, which is prone to landslides and rock slides that could be triggered during an earthquake. Roads could become impassable, effectively isolating Malibu. This would become especially difficult in the event of a San Andreas-style earthquake because the rest of the state could potentially be dealing with the earthquake as well. Resources would be scarce, and if Malibu is isolated, it would be dependent upon residents and local stores to provide for each other. Support would likely be slow in coming to Malibu, and the city has a limited number of stores and shops with a limited number of stock and supplies to provide to residents. And again, I'm not trying to scare you, but I am trying to emphasize that should the capital T big one occur, residents should plan to be self-sufficient for 2 to 3 weeks. And that does include food, water, clothing, medication, and a place to stay. I want to really emphasize the importance of having a plan, getting prepared now before the earthquake happens. Know your plan. If you don't know it, talk to your family, to your friends, to your neighbors to create it. Create your go bag, and stay kit, make sure they stay up to date, and go through your home and try and mitigate any hazards that may exist. So it's really, really important to sign up for emergency alerts before the disaster hits. In this case, it would be an earthquake. Make sure you sign up for the City of Malibu alerts. You can do that by going to www.malibucity.org/disaster notifications. If you have problems, you can contact me. My contact information will be on the last slide, which I will leave up. And I will be more than happy to help you get signed up or get back into your account. It's also important to sign up for the County of Los Angeles alerts should you not be in Malibu when something happens. You can do that at www.alertlacounty.gov. If you work go to school or live outside the city and county of LA, consider signing up for those local area alerts as well. For example, I live in Ventura County, so I've signed up for Ventura County's alert system, which is VC Alert. So let's review some of the steps to creating a disaster plan. Talk to those around you, whether that's your friends, families, coworkers, or neighbors. You need to know who's around you, what their needs are, and how they can help you and you can help them in the event of a disaster to plan for them. Know the emergency plans of the places where you and your family spend the most time. If your kids are going to school right now at a physical location, get familiar with their disaster plans. If you have adults in adult care facilities, know their disaster plans. Will you need to transport them to or from in the event of an earthquake? Can they provide shelter? Do you need to build a kit for them? These are the kinds of things you will want to start thinking about. Earthquakes can happen at any time. Have a designated family reunification site and mark them on a physical map and save them on your phone. Google Maps has a function that you can download a designated map area and mark that map with sites for offline use. I'm not super familiar with Apple Maps, but I wouldn't be surprised if they had that function as well. Make sure you have an out-of-area contact. The further out of the area, the better. If you have someone who lives out of state, have them be your out-of-area contact. If not, choose someone out of the city or out of county. The further you can get away, the better. Make sure that everyone in the family has that out-of-area contact saved in their phone and written down and carried around in their purse, wallet, or backpack. So we all have the phone numbers saved in our phones now. And what happens if your phone dies? If you run out of battery after an earthquake, would you be able to remember your loved one's phone numbers, all of them? I know personally I could probably do one or two, not all of them. But it's really important that you have those phone numbers written down in case your phone dies and you can't get access to a charger. Again, you could write them on a piece of paper, carry them around in your wallet, on the back of an old business card, stick them in your kid's backpack, carry it in your purse. But it's really important to have those important phone numbers written down. Your emergency contacts, your out-of-area contact, your doctor, whoever you think is important that you might need to get a hold of, or someone might need to get a hold of them on your behalf. So reviewing how to create a stay kit. Stay kits should be big enough that you and your family can be self-sufficient for 2 to 3 weeks stretch in one go. Make sure that includes 2 to 3 weeks of shelf-stable food that you like to eat. So if you despise canned green beans and love canned corn, make sure you have canned corn in your emergency food rather than canned green beans. There are emergency food rations that you can buy, whether that's dehydrated backpacking food or the kind of stable life bar cakes that they keep in life rafts. You can purchase those as well. Make sure you taste them ahead of time and make sure it's something you'll actually want to eat. Oftentimes, if you have the food brick, for lack of a better descriptor, they have a name, but they're slipping my head at the moment. A lot of those have a ration amount that you have 3 ounces that equals 1 meal, and you'll need to drink 8 ounces of water. So make sure you're familiar with how your emergency food works if you're getting emergency food, not just canned food. Make sure you have 2 to 3 weeks worth of water, and that includes 1 gallon per person per day, and that is for both cooking and cleaning and sanitation and drinking. Make sure you include your furry, four-legged family members. If you're a person who likes to drink a lot of water during the day, you might want to increase that guideline to 1.5 gallons per person per day. It's really important to pack comfortable clothes and closed-toed shoes. Closed-toed shoes are very, very important in post-earthquake because broken glass and thin shoes don't mix. You don't want to be dealing with an earthquake debris and not have good footwear to protect your feet. Comfortable clothes. A lot of people in their disaster kit have clothes that don't quite fit, maybe a few years out of style. You feel bad throwing them away or giving them away because they're still fine, but you don't really like wearing them, so they go in the emergency kit. If there has been a big earthquake and you are sheltering somewhere else and you're using the clothes from your emergency kit, you're not going to feel the best. So please pick clothes that you're actually comfortable in. Whether that's yoga pants, board shorts, evening gown, to each their own. But make sure you pack clothes that you'd actually be comfortable in. Pack enough clothes that you could feasibly wear them, have enough for 2 to 3 weeks. Each person has their own comfort level, so keep that in mind. A flameless light source is especially important post-earthquake. In event of the big one on the San Andreas Fault, we're likely to see lots of gas lines rupturing. So it's very important to use a flashlight or an electric lantern or something to that effect as your light source. Radio, preferably hand crank or solar, are always good to have. They will keep you in contact with what's going on and keep you appraised of the situation. First aid kit, make sure you personalize it to you and your family. If someone in your family is prone to bleeding, make sure you increase the bandages and band-aids. If someone has an allergy, take that into account. And the final thing to think about, especially with a stay kit and especially with an earthquake, is where are you going to go or where are you going to sleep if your home is damaged? It might be light damage and a few things broken, fallen off the shelf, or a few tiles loose from the roof. But if it's heavily damaged and you can't safely stay in your home, where will you sleep? Do you like to camp, so you already have a tent and sleeping bags? Would you go to a Red Cross shelter? Do you have an RV on your property? These are some things to start thinking about and potentially buying if you're in a state where you can, to plan ahead. All right. I will say for stay kits and anything that you purchase online as far as emergency preparedness items, please, please, please try to purchase them from reputable dealers. Amazon often has a plethora of products with a plethora of reviews, but make sure you're really taking a look and researching what you buy. Any kit, whether that's first aid or emergency kit that is bought, should be taken apart, examined, and customized for your family. Every person, every family is going to have some different needs, and not every kit is going to have what you and your family need. It's really important to really customize it to the best of your ability. All right, we're going to take a quick detour into water purification. It's going to be really important in the event of a large earthquake. The water supply to Malibu and most of LA County will probably be disrupted in the event of a capital T, the big one on the San Andreas Fault. You should plan to have enough water to last 2 to 3 weeks for you and everyone in your family, and a backup or two about ways to purify water should something happened to your water supply. You'll need to figure out what system or method works best for your family. Excuse me. Some examples are above are water purification tablets that can be purchased at most camping stores. Water purification pumps, again, can be purchased at most camping stores. If you find water but don't have those options, that you can boil water safely. You can heat fresh water to a rolling boil, leave it at a rolling boil for 1 minute and then cool it. And that is a way to purify water. Remember that a lot of these water purification methods require a source of fresh water. Some systems and methods do not work for seawater. If you do want to use seawater as your backup, you need to look for things that are designed to convert seawater into drinking water. Those methods tend to be a little more cumbersome and a little more expensive, but it's something that you can do if you so choose. As a reminder, do your research and please, please, please buy from a reputable dealer. With all of these water purification methods, it's very, very important to become familiar with how your method operates, how to work it and follow the instructions, and how to use it before the earthquake happens. You don't really want to be in a situation where the first time you're using your water purification pump is after an earthquake. So it may be one of those things that every time you think about your disaster kit, you go through, you check it, and you try your water purification method. You do that once a year. Or if you're like me, you do it once every 6 months or so. Another popular way to purify water is using bleach. It's really, really important that you use unscented household bleach. You can't use scented or the gel bleach. It has to be liquid, unadulterated bleach. You'll want to add the correct ratio for the amount of water. So for example, 1 quart is equal to 4 drops, 1 gallon is 8 drops, 4 gallons is 1/3 of a teaspoon. If the water's cloudy, you'll double the amount of bleach. What you'll do is you'll add your bleach to your water, stir or shake it to mix it together, then let it sit for 30 minutes before use. It doesn't taste the best, but the water is clean. So too far. There we go. For example, I have a kit at home that is a 5-gallon bucket. Inside of that 5-gallon bucket, from an unnamed home improvement store, is a small bottle of bleach I bought at the 99-cent store. Also inside that, there are some metal water bottles, an eyedropper, and a set of metal measuring spoons. I have written in Sharpie the ratios from this table on the bucket itself and on the bottle of bleach. And all of that is stored inside the bucket with a lid on. That way, if there is a need for me to purify the water using bleach and it's dark and I'm stressed and I can't remember what the ratios are, I can just grab that, look at it, and proceed. So just as an FYI, for 5 gallons of water, it's 40 drops or 1/3 of a teaspoon and then 8 drops. And I do have that written on my bucket lid. Okay. So now, do you guys have any questions about preparedness or earthquakes in general, earthquake planning? Okie dokie, moving on to mitigation and home hazards. Mitigation and home hazards are really home specific. They vary in things that you can do right now by yourself to things that you'll need to hire a contractor for. But it's very important that you take a look at your home and decide what needs to be done to keep you and your family safe during an earthquake. Uh-oh. There we go. So the first thing that I can't urge everyone enough to do is create an earthquake bedside kit. Earthquakes can happen at any time of the day or night. Make sure you have a bedside kit. These can be purchased online from a reputable dealer. You'll hear me say that a lot. Or you can put these items in a shopping bag or an old pillowcase and tie it to the leg of your bed or put it in the bottom drawer of your bedside table. If you have special needs, take those into account as well. For example, if you have you need eyeglasses to see, put a pair of your old eyeglasses in there. Having a pair of shoes under your bed in your earthquake kit prevents cuts from broken glass on the bottom of your feet, which was the #1 injury after the Northridge earthquake. So it's really important that you have those closed-toed shoes. Flashlights are always useful. If you're more of a hands-free person, you can purchase a headlamp. Pants and working gloves are very important to keep yourself protected. Securing decorations. For those who have small children, a lot of these suggestions and the ones to follow will be very familiar to you. Make sure you secure heavy mounted decor and TVs to the wall studs. Hang paintings and mirrors on closed hooks. Use museum wax or putty or Velcro to secure small knickknacks and loose items to the shelves. This will prevent them from falling and breaking and prevent further injury. Install latches or child-proof locks on cabinets. This is especially true in the kitchen and any higher storage areas with fragile or breakable items. So if you like to store your family's nice china on the top shelf or the top cabinet of your bureau, it's very important that you install latches on that cabinet. Move chemicals and heavy items to the lowest possible shelf or floor. If you have pets or small children, make sure you absolutely install cabinet child-proof locks on the cabinets or some sort of hook to keep them contained. Don't forget to check your garage and secure all cabinets in there, heavy equipment and chemicals that are stored there as well. Oftentimes the garage is overlooked because we don't spend a lot of time in there. It's just more of a through place and a storage place, but it's very important to have a keen eye on what is in your garage and how you can make it more secure. Securing the furniture, you'll want to make sure you secure especially bookcases or anything that's tall and top heavy to the wall with either brackets or earthquake straps. Move those before you secure them. Make sure you move, if you can, tall or heavy furniture away from doorways so that if it does fall over and breaks free of its straps, you aren't trapped in that room. Strap down or mount TVs to the wall and into the studs. Anchor and secure anything that's in the ceiling, whether that's fans, lights, or chandeliers. Unfortunately, the only fatality in the Napa quake was because of a head injury caused by a flat screen TV that was unsecured. It's really important that you take a look with a critical eye at your home and the rooms where you spend the most time to make sure that you're doing what you can beforehand to make your family as safe as possible. These suggestions may be a little more expensive. They may need professional help as compared to the ones on the previous slides, but they're very important because they can cause just as much, if not more damage and more injury. Strapping your water heater to the studs with metal straps, oftentimes that is a requirement of the building code now, but if you have an older home, before that was part of the building code, you may not have that. Another thing that you'll want to check if you have an older home is to see if your house is bolted to the foundation. Make sure you're using flexible connectors where gas lines meet appliances. That will hopefully prevent a line breaking and releasing gas into your home. And then secure any freestanding wood stoves or fireplace inserts. That's more of a Northwest thing, but every home is different, and it's good to cover all the bases. You need to take a special look at your bedroom because that is where you will be the most vulnerable because you'll be asleep. Earthquakes can happen at any time of the day or night. As a reminder, you should have a pair of closed-toed shoes and a flashlight at easy access, whether that's a kit tied to your bed or in your bottom drawer. Make sure you have them. If you have heavy paintings, art, or objects on a shelf above your bed, consider moving them or shifting to a closed hook or a more secure mounting. You don't want that falling on you when you're sleeping in the event of an earthquake. Make sure you secure mirrors and dressers and bookcases if possible. Move them away from the bed themselves and doorways. Take a really critical look at what other things could harm you if you're in your bedroom asleep and an earthquake strikes. Is there anything that could block you and keep you from getting out? It's also really important to move your bed a reasonable distance from the windows. Try not to sleep directly under one. If an earthquake does happen when you're asleep and it wakes you up, wake up, turn over onto your belly, and cover your head and neck with a pillow and wait for the shaking to stop. If you do have something heavy above you, whether that's a mirror, a painting, a fan, some sort of light fixture, if possible, try and move to somewhere safe, whether that's simply getting out of bed and laying on the bed floor next to the bed, and then drop, covering, and hold on. You want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to avoid falling objects. So during an earthquake, hopefully this is familiar to everybody, it's very, very important that you drop, cover your head and neck, and hold on to a heavy, secure object. Preferably, if you can get under that heavy, secure object, that would be ideal. If not, get next to a secured, sturdy object, so if you're, or an interior wall. Please protect your head and neck to the best of your ability. Please do not attempt to rush outside, as things will probably be falling loose from the shaking, whether that would be branches, power lines, or roof tiles. You don't want to be injured by falling objects. Another thing, please, please, please do not run to a doorway when there's a significant earthquake. Oftentimes, doorways, if the shaking is bad enough, will cause the door itself to swing. And if you are bracing yourself in a doorway, you may break fingers hanging onto the doorway while the door is swinging. And that's not something you want to deal with in the aftermath of an earthquake. Wait until the shaking has stopped and you can move safely again before assessing your surroundings. Remember, not every earthquake is a standalone, and not the first earthquake, the first earthquake isn't always the strongest. So there may be aftershocks and they may be worse. If you're using a cane, do the best you can with getting low, covering your head and neck, and holding on. Not everyone is the same. Not everyone has the same mobility and everyone has different constraints. If you're using a walker or a wheelchair, it's very important that you lock your mobility device before taking a seat. If you're standing, covering the head and neck to the best of your ability and holding on, waiting for the shaking to stop. These circumstances may change with time and age, whether you've had a surgery or there's an injury, for example. It's something to keep in the back of your mind that you always want to try and get to a stable place, cover your head and neck to the best of your ability, and then hold on, waiting for shaking to stop. If you have the ability to get away from tall, heavy objects, such as bookcases or unsecured entertainment centers, heavy wall ornaments, please do so. Wait until the shaking stops, and then you can safely move around before getting up to try and assess your surroundings. Remember, oftentimes with large earthquakes, there are aftershocks. Every time you feel an aftershock, make sure you go back to that drop, cover, and hold on. The first earthquake isn't always the strongest. In Malibu, in particular, with strong sustained shaking, residents need to be aware that this may cause landslides or tsunamis. If you're at the beach and you feel an earthquake, drop, cover, and hold on until you can safely move again, and then head inland and up by foot as quickly and as safely as you can. After an earthquake, when it's safe to move again, assess your surroundings for potential damage and hazards. Some hazards could be broken gas lines, broken tree branches on the ground, power lines, ceiling tiles coming loose, broken glass. It's very important to try and look around and see what could harm you before getting up. Once you've assessed your surroundings, attempt to help those around you if you have the skills and if they need it. I'm not saying anyone should attempt a penknife tracheotomy unless they're trained to do so, but if you have basic first aid and you see someone in need, offer to help. In event of a disaster, it's very important to text, not call. Texting saves the bandwidth and space for those who need to call for help. For example, if you see a fire and you are unable to put it out with your small fire extinguisher, you would need to call 911 to call for help. I cannot emphasize that enough. Please, please, please text, don't call. Speaking of texting, make sure you reach out to your out-of-area contact. If you need to call them, try to keep it brief. Tell them your location and your status, and tell them you will call back later with more information. And please don't forget to call back later with more information when things are hopefully calmer. Put out any small fires you find. This prevents them from becoming bigger fires, which will be important if it is the big one on the San Andreas. Once you've done everything you can to help secure where you are and those around you, follow your family's disaster plan, or if you're at work, your school, follow your location's disaster plan. So if that's work or school, then try and follow your family's disaster plan. But remember that things are probably going to be crazy. On the screen are some resources for everyone to be of use, as well as my contact information. Oh my goodness, I must have talked very fast. Does anyone have any questions?
There were a couple of questions that we were saving.
Okay.
Richard asked how we would get your slides, and I believe we're going to post those to the website tomorrow.
Yes, the slides will be posted online to the website tomorrow. It will be on the National Preparedness Month page, which is under the public safety page.
Okay, and we can also add them to the calendar event for tonight. So if you go back to the calendar and click on this event, even though it's in the past, we can add a link to where those will be posted there. So remind me, Sarah, and I'll help with that tomorrow. We also had somebody say, you mentioned capital T or capital P earthquake, but couldn't hear that clearly. What were you referring to?
I was referring to the capital T as in Thomas, the big one on the San Andreas Fault. Oftentimes,
kudos to Marlo for guessing that that's what that was.
Thank you, Marlo.
And then Judy is asking, is the city participating in the Great California Shakeout on October 15th?
We are. I am trying to figure out how to try and force everyone in the city to participate, even though they're remote. Everyone at City Hall will be participating. I'm trying to get all city staff to participate, but the city will be participating. One resource that just occurred to me that I didn't put on the resources page was a podcast that I personally enjoyed quite a bit. It's called The Big One. I believe it's an NPR podcast, but it's all about what you can do to prepare for an earthquake and what it could potentially be like during an earthquake on the San Andreas Fault. I'll put that information in the chat. Are there any more questions?
I don't think so. Oh, wait, we do have one more. Oops.
That was me.
Oh, that was
Sorry,
you.
Mary.
Sorry, I was going back. I think we made a redirect for prep month, was it? Oh, I did. So you can go to look for the slides where they are going to live is on a new page we created in the public safety section called National Preparedness Month. And to get to it easy, it's malibucity.org/prep month, PREPMONTH. And it will be updated with links to all of the presentations of all the different events for this month, ones that have passed, the others that are scheduled a little later. And we will leave that up all year long. And then next year, when Preparedness Month 2021 comes around, we will archive these presentations as resources and then add information about next year's events and presentations. So malibucity.org/prep month.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary. And thank you, everyone, for attending. I will leave the Zoom open and the chat box open if anyone has any questions. Thank you all for attending. I hope to see you next week for our Community Safety Fire Update, which is, I believe I got the title wrong, but that's going to be on Tuesday at 6 p.m. On Wednesday next week, we will have a seminar on the new evacuation zones. And then on Thursday, Fire Safety Liaison Jerry Vandermeulen will be hosting a seminar on home ignition zones. So if you haven't already signed up for them, please, please, please take a look, and hopefully we'll see you all there.